while they look for the permanent person later on.
No, it's not that kind of thing. And put me say I went out surrogate and I don't enter. No, but I repeat, they never for the person who go come out.
You could be the permanent.
I've always wondered if it is against our law. Yeah. It's against
surrogate.
Yes.
Well, we don't know what they're, but they want to form in that one will not have
anyone, they form me to, they don't form me to, we are going to start. Why I want to promote anyway.
Yeah, permanent. Praise God.
Please stop. Please stop. I need your help. You know, please stop. My passenger. No. I'm sorry, nobody there. I don't even know how to explain it now. Pure that boss. Projects, please.
Are you saying something about people?
Project.
No. Wait a minute.
Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. On the 25th of February 2022, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2022 into law. But while signing it, he said he would approach the National Assembly to amend the provision in Section 84, subsection 12 of the Act on the grounds that it violated certain provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now, this section restricts political appointees from participating as delegates during primary elections. It was eventually repealed and served as a litmus test during the last party primaries that produced candidates across political parties. Now, as elections draw near and with campaigns already running, what are those boundaries to watch out for? And what are some of the new areas that the current legal framework has addressed, and how prepared are players of the game and other critical agencies to ensure compliance? But before we go into this discussion, let's get to see this report put together by INEC correspondent Mayor Ogidi.
Section 92 of the Electoral Act 2022 deals with the prohibition of certain conducts during political campaigns. One of such prohibited conducts is the tainting of political slogans or campaign with abusive language capable of injuring religious, ethnic, tribal, or sectional feelings. The law also bars the use of abusive, intemperate, slanderous language or innuendos designed to provoke violent reaction or emotions during electioneering. Section 92 subsection 3 also prohibits political campaigns in places designated for religious worship, police station, and public offices.
You don't use or fund the embers of religion in the name of obtaining or trying to woo supporters to get votes. The essence of political campaign is to talk to the people, sell out your policies and the objectives of your party.
Or guiding to us against the idea of campaign that should not have abusive languages, innuendos, slogans that are aimed at tarnishing the other person's image.
The use of masquerades during political campaigns, either by a political party or candidate, is also outlawed. Section 93 of the Act also bars political parties and their candidates from the employment or training of any person with the aim of displaying physical force during campaigns.
A political party and its candidates should not employ the use of force, and that is why sometimes you know that in some instances you find that some private security guards are used during campaigns. The law doesn't allow that.
Electoral Act 2022, which repealed the Electoral Act 2010, is intended to bring sanity and order to the way and manner political campaigns are to take place in Nigeria from the 28th of September when it kickstarts.
Sections 92 and 93 of the Electoral Act 2022 also provided appropriate punishments for the contravention of the provisions under the Act. All these provisions, according to the legal practitioners, are geared towards peaceful campaigns. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi.
All right, that background report was by Dele Atumbi. But it sets the tone for tonight's discussion. And let's start off by introducing our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Izenwa Wagu, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reform. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. It's always nice being with you.
Okay. Let me also welcome to this program Yunus Ustaz Usman, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Good evening.
Thank you. We are also joined by Dr. Tanko Yunus, Chief Spokesman of the Coalition for the Labour Party. Thanks for being here. Okay, and let me also welcome Kola Logbodio, immediate past Publicity Secretary of the PDP.
Thank you very much, Oga Cyril, if you can hear me.
Well, at the appropriate time, we'll acquaint you with the procedure for when you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio, but that will be some time away. Right now, we'll start off with the issues at stake. That's talking about the electoral law and the 2023 general elections. And of course, the campaigns are already on, and the parties have started strategizing and putting their best foot forward to ask for the mandate of the electorate. But let's take a look at what a senior advocate. What are those boundaries? We said in our introduction that there are certain things to watch out for this time around, following the signing of the Electoral Act into law, what we saw the President do in February. What are those things that the players should be looking out for that should make this time around different?
Definitely, the aim of the 2022 Act is to correct the ills of the past in most cases. And that is why a cursory look at the provision makes even rough coughing an offense under the 22 Electoral Act. Almost everything is punishable, and it is a good thing. As long as you won't just say, if you commit this offense, you are punishable, and then at the end of it, nobody will prosecute. That is always our bane. But it punishes every wrong which had been condoned before. It's a good development, as long as we are ready to punish. Because the way the dance is starting, I think our politicians will start it well.
All right. What do you think?
Well, we do know that election is a competitive enterprise, and there should be a situation in which those who are involved in it understand the rules and punishes where it's necessary. And so what needs to happen is to ensure that the political party monitoring department of the Independent National Electoral Commission is ready to be able to monitor and then and ensure that where there are infringements of these laws, that there are sanctions. Because sometimes it's a bit worrying when you see INEC warning. I don't think they should be warning. I think they should wield the big stick. The law is very clear, and one of the reasons why that law has been, as the senior advocate has said, is to cure certain elements that had, threatened the whole idea of even sustaining this democracy, where we have, different panels set up to deal with electoral violence, where there's a huge campaign to start another institution that is called the Electoral Offences Commission. And what all of this means is that our politicians have not come into the conversations around reform. But 2022-2023 will become that period in which it's not just going to be about elections, it's also going to be about our attitude, to this contest, to this competition, and that is what we should be looking forward to. And that also brings in the mindset generally of the Nigerian about election. How do we see election? Are there crimes that we think are excusable because it's election period? How do our security agencies themselves see election? Does the issue of rule of law mean anything to these institutions, that just nobody is above the law? Those are some of the things that I think put together, because it's not about how many, even before the Electoral Act, there are punishable issues. Some of them may be a risk on the palm, but a slap on the palm, but basically what has been the challenge is that we have not been able to bring people to book when they commit electoral offenses.
Good. So at this point, let's bring in the actors themselves, who should be guided by what the law now says. So let's start off with the chief spokesman for the coalition of the Labour Party, Tanko Yunusa.
The Electoral Act is one of the best things that have ever happened to our electoral dynamics in Nigeria as of today. And I say this with a lot of patriotism and zeal, considering some of the challenges that we faced over the years, especially in terms of campaign and candidate placement, replacement, and substitution, and all the likes. For example, one of the key issues that resonates with me with regard to the issue of candidature or placement of candidate by the political party is Section 29, subsection 8, which gives clarity as regard to if the political party engage in sending in an unqualified candidate. I repeat, Section 29, Section 8 says if you send in an unqualified candidate, you are due to be fined of 10 million naira or punishable by offense of a prison of 1 year or that about. This gives you clarity as regard to the kind of vision that the Electoral Act has, because what they want to have credible candidates who can actually become leaders of this country, so that you will not have people who have falsified documents that will be presented by the political party just because he has money or he has godfathers, then he doesn't have the prerequisite to become any leader, be it from the local or ward level councillorship, state assembly, federal house of representatives, senate, or governor or the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is a clear-cut warning to anybody who has sent in a falsified document to INEC. The challenges are there and it can be dealt with. Two, for me, it also goes to say the issue of campaign finances, how it's being guided, how it's being regulated. For example, the Electoral Act says that a presidential candidate cannot spend more than 5 billion naira, while the governorship candidate cannot spend more than 1 billion naira. 100 million naira for the governor, House of Representatives 700 million, and it goes down the line. That means there's a guiding rule as regard to how spending can take place, because we are aware that a lot of people have generated a lot of fund in order to use to manipulate the interest of the electorate. Here, it is very important to note that Nigerian people are tired of being manipulated against interests that may be inimical to the democratic setting. So if there are guiding rules and it's punishable by law, it means that all of these Digbokasebe or Kayan Aiki or all of those ones will be completely out of the system. And this is very key, because we are moving from a new era, from all order to a new era, where money, which has been a very serious matter, which of course cannot be easily removed, will not be a key factor in the 2023 general election. So for me, these are two issues that are very, very critical, and I want to say that it's an opportunity for any political party or any political gladiator to make use of this electoral act for the benefit of our democracy.
Well, yes, there is another with us who should be keeping an eagle eye on what the law says. And that's you I'm turning to now. How prepared are you?
Party is very prepared and ready for the election. What strikes us in the party and among our stakeholders as well as our aspirants is the credibility of the process. Fine, there are laws guiding the elections. There had always been laws, like the SAN rightly stated. There had always been laws guiding our electoral processes. But when either the commission or the voters or the aspirants contravene these laws, what are the outcome or what are the punishments for these contraventions? So I want to say that yes, the Electoral Act 2022 has brought in some areas of perfection to our electoral process. But because it is still going to be managed by human beings, from the commission to the voters, what happened where offenses are committed? Have we set up the right processes to punish offenders? Because for Nigerians to be wary of what will befall them, they must see the consequence. They must be informed that, look, on the election day, if you are found wanting in so and so area, it will go beyond just mere arrest or release, but you will be punished, you will go to jail. Until that is done, it is the usual window dressing. But I must give it to INEC for the introduction of BVAS. I give it to INEC. And my prayer and the hope of every Nigerian out there is that hopefully, for once, we will get it right in 2023. For us in the People's Democratic Party, our candidate is known across the nation, is known at every polling unit, is known at every point of the election. He's a decent gentleman. He has run elections over and over in this country. Nothing incriminating has been found of him in the electoral process. And he preaches this same thing to the followers, to the voters. That is the area of engagement.
Okay, but then in the build-up to these elections, with the campaigns on, there are cases in court still. Okay, there are so many litigations, and this cuts across parties. And some watchers of the scene are beginning to ask, will there be enough time to dispose of all these litigations? Will there be enough time to do that before the real process itself gets underway?
Definitely yes. Because there is a time frame for the conduct of every pre-election matter now. At the trial court is 180 days, that is 6 months maximum. At the appellate court of appeal is 60 days. Supreme Court is 60 days. And if your cases are not concluded and just your judgment delivered within those periods, then your case lapses automatically. So it will not be business as usual, except when we come to that. I still have my reservations, but we have not come to that yet.
But let's hear those reservations.
The reservations are, as the Honorable had said, the main problem we have in this country is that the laws are there, but the obedience of those laws are absent. And that is what is most likely going to happen unless we are very careful with 2023. When from the primary elections and so on, look, somebody must talk. The problem we have in this country is that nobody is ready to talk. You hide under your bed. Why did they come and catch you? Now, from the pre-election expenses, primary election expenses, some of us are afraid for this country that we are not yet ready. Then on the issue, the important issue the Honorable talked about, the issue of punishment again. Yes, there is the provision of Section 145 of the Present Electoral Act, which says if you commit any of these offenses, and it runs through the total gamut of the present electoral. In fact, almost everything you do wrongly, everything is punishable. Minimum is 500,000. But the issue, like we always say, especially those of us who are old already, is will these people be punished? And it is not likely at all.
Anyway, you see.
Well, I think one of the things that may be helpful for us in today's conversation is not to shift the mirror. We're discussing the activities of the politicians and their political parties. And there's a history. We were in this country in a situation where we are going to vote. And the result of where you are voting will be announced. That's where we're coming from. We're coming from ballot box snatching. We're coming from stuffing of ballot boxes. We're in a place where politicians, irrespective of the parties, will unleash violence and thugs. We are coming from a place where political parties have no internal party governance system that guarantees fair play, justice. That is why you have the litigations, pre-election litigations. And if you take a study of our process, you will see that many of the litigations are arising from the misdemeanor of the political parties and their actors. So if we have to have a serious conversation, we have to drag in and not allow this shifting of the mirror to the point where we are talking about, how the candidate, where have we been? Where do we want to go? Why did we introduce beavers? Why has the cost of election risen to the point that it has gotten to, where we are introducing things that should not come into our election? We had the smart card reader. What happened to the smart card reader? What was the problem of the smart card reader? The politicians ganged up against the smart card reader and ensure that it was taken away. We have now brought in beavers. What smart card reader authentication, that is what it does, to ensure that the bearer of the PVC is the rightful owner of that card, and it had to do fingerprinting. It was simply, to do that. Why were we all doing that? Because the politicians were going to take PVCs, other people's PVC, that the law prohibits that you cannot do that. They buy them up, store them in their houses, and during the election they give it out to people.
And a lot of them did and never got punished.
That's where we are. I just needed to give you that background so that you understand that the cost of running election in Nigeria is because the politicians have not been dragged into the conversation about reforms, and these politicians have no tribal marks. Their internal government. Look at the election that we are going to go into. What in many of the political parties, they are still in court over candidate selection as we speak right now. They have not even resolved the issue of candidate selection, and there is no party that is free. What does that tell you? It tells you that there are issues around even their own internal governance mechanisms, and nobody is making that conversation. So if we allow this conversation, it will take us away from discussing how to salvage a political process that is characterized by, first, the challenge of membership. The fluidity of membership of political parties is an issue. You can be this in the morning, and in the evening you have become, by simply clauses that they inserted in their constitution about waivers. And who does these waivers? You know, National Executive Committee, National Working Committee, or an individual just wakes up and say, if you were in this party before, you can now become a member of this party. And indeed, you can even become the presidential candidate. Now, it's a challenge for us, and we need to confront those challenges in a way that helps us to come out of the kind of, you know, crisis that we are. Otherwise, we'll be discussing who is which candidate. That is not where we are. That is not today's conversation. Today's conversation is, what are those basic issues that needs to happen for us to have a political party system that the Nigerian people can have confidence in. And that, for me, is basically what we are going to be discussing.
All right, let's look at one or two of those sections as they guide the conduct of the players themselves. And let's go back to them. And Section 92, the subsection 1, which forbids a party, campaign or slogan from being tainted with abusive language, directly or indirectly, you know, which stops you from campaigning, or a slogan which seeks to injure your opponents, you know, whip up religious or ethnic. How are you going to ensure this does not happen this time around?
The question for me, or for...
Yes, what are you?
Well, for us in the People's Democratic Party, I think we have followed the game of decency up to this moment. And I can say that clearly because in the first place, our presidential candidate, though Mr. Ezenwa is trying to set the rules, but I can say I speak to facts and I speak to truth that's known to all Nigerians. Our presidential candidate has not had any reason to ask any member of the party to go and insult Nigerians. And we have worked and set out issue-based campaigns even before we went into the primary election. And as such, I believe that in the People's Democratic Party, we are guided by the laws, we are guided by the rules. Our actions, our campaign will continue to be on the basis of issues. And as such, that is why, from the outset, the candidate of my own political party, Atiku Abubakar, brought out a covenant that he's going to have with Nigerians and encourage members of the PDP to work and campaign in line with the themes of this covenant. And largely, if you have been following programs in which members of PDP are involved, you haven't seen anywhere where use of violent language has been involved. You haven't seen anywhere where abuses have been involved. You haven't seen members of our own party going on the street and forcing people to scream the slogan of our party. It hasn't happened. We have operated within the realm of decency. And this is confirmable. This can be checked.
Yes, let's hear from the Labour Party, their own perspective to this matter. All right, we're having challenges with getting the views of Dr. Tanko Yunusa there. Well, we have seen party leaders, candidates profess one thing and seen other things manifest just in a matter of hours after those things. And this is a question I would have liked the other gentleman to respond here. While politicians may claim that they are well aware and they're carrying out the activities within the rules, we find in reality that this is mostly in the breach. Ezewa says INEC should not warn. They should just wield the big stick. You think so?
Yes. I totally agree with him. And you see, this country belongs to all of us. Please. And the politicians must be warned. I'm not happy at all. Anybody who tells you he's happy is not sincere with himself. Look, this section 82(1, abusive language and the rest, it does not mean you should I say my father or my... If you go to castigate your opponent openly, that's an abusive language. And you see, what the way we are doing it is not matured at all. For instance, who doesn't fall ill? When somebody will now say somebody is ill, are you going to play football if you are there? There's nobody who doesn't get ill. To me, we should play politics as it is supposed to be played. Please tell Nigerians what you want to do for Nigerians that others have not do or your opponents cannot do. Don't go outside that. But so far, almost all the aspirants have not satisfied me, and I mean it.
Let's return and get the spokesperson for the coalition, Labour, right?
Particular action of ours on issue-based politics, our presidential candidate, Peter Obi, exemplified the action. And I give reference to what happened at the MBA conference in Lagos. You saw Peter Obi practically giving respect to his former principal, Atiku Abubakar, as a show of mark of respect. That is leadership quality. And when he did that, he also followed up with a statement that all of his supporters should not in any way use any derogative statement, insulting, or attack on any person. If there are issues that are being raised within the realms of leaders, he should be allowed to do justice to it and respond accordingly. And he has maintained that on the basis of equity, fairness, and justice. What we always say is that we're going to run a campaign based on issue-based. And that is the reason why, as of today, he railed out his 7-point agenda, which captured the issue of security, the issue of inflation, the issue of debt management, the issue of subsidy, the issue of human capital development, the issue of gender parity. These are the 7-point agenda, and that is exactly what we are going to be talking to. We don't want to engage anybody in terms of whether he or she have any health challenges. You will never ever hear somebody from our campaign organization mentioning names of individuals in terms of reference, in terms of their health or anything from our campaign organization. You will not hear it, because we have already doctored and trained ourselves to make sure that we only deal with issue-based politics. And I make reference to a situation of interview that happened with myself and some other colleagues of mine. In fact, the anchor have to say that, oh, you have shown so high level of decorum in terms of how you marshal out your point. And that is exactly what we want to send to Nigeria. Look, ladies and gentlemen, Nigerians are tired of blackmail. Nigerians are tired of backbiting. Nigerians are tired of sliding. All Nigerians want is solution to their problems. And we are ready to give that particular solution based on verifiable facts. And that is the reason why most of the issues that are being raised within the 7-point agenda of Peter Obi deal with contemporary day situation. We're not going back onto the old order. We know as of the moment, the Nigerian state has heavy debts. And so we make it a point of discussion. We know Nigeria has issue of security at the moment. We are making it a subject of discussion. We know that there are issue of subsidy which affect us. We are making it a subject of discussion. We are talking about inflation which has risen considerable, that is affecting every Nigerian. And that is why we make bold to say there is obedience in every family home. And I said at the point in time, including the presidency, because how can you imagine almost like 8 months now plus going, ASU is on strike, everybody is affected negatively, and the economic situation is biting so hard that Nigerians cannot even think of 83 square meal on their table. If you talk about the issue of security, these are key components that Nigerians want to hear, and they want to hear you talk about them with solution and time frame. That is exactly what we are going to do. I can assure you, anything coming from the Labour Party will be based on issue based, and it will be directed on how to solve issues for the Nigerian people. And I feel it's so easy to mention that. That is why our statement have been resonating so closely with the Nigerian youth who have believed in everything that we have said, and they came out in their humongous number to give support, especially on the October 1st celebration, which we saw in over 40 cities of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and every zone of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was affected. Even as we speak today, there were rallies. Nigerians have come united against each other with religion, tribal, or age group. All of these things have been put to pass because we have set the agenda for the Nigerian people, and we will maintain that.
We also have some reports in addition to the discussion in the studio here. Let's look at one of them. The first we're taking here now is from Lagos.
By President Muhammadu Buhari on February 25, 2022, the new Electoral Act is regarded as a game changer, accommodating a number of provisions designed to drive electoral reforms. With the lead of public political campaigns across the country, key provisions in the Act are expected to come to bear, giving legal backing to stringent calls for issue-based campaigns and prescribing penalties in case of contravention.
The one that strikes me more is section 92, subsection 2, that prohibits the use of abusive, intemperate, slanderous, and some other languages that are likely to provoke or that can engineer anger in the public. These are some of the provisions that the laws provides that guides the use of materials, even as it affects the media houses.
With the provisions of Section 93 to 96, it is now clear that religious centers and public offices are no-go areas for political campaigns.
You cannot go to do political campaign in church, but as a moral compass for society, you can't stop preachers from discussing political issues, but they must not be partisan. That's my own, but you cannot take campaign to church or mosque. It's not proper.
The Act, according to Section 91, subsection 3 and subsection 4, however, empowers political parties to have equal and unfettered access to public facilities and media space to canvass for votes.
True, you don't need to get permits to commence on any campaign, but in the interest of security, in the interest of peace, we advise people to notify the police of such procession, such campaigns, so that the police will be in a very good position to provide security, and sometimes advise in case another group has informed the police of using that same route.
The expectation is that all stakeholders will strictly adhere to the provisions of the Electoral Act in order to sanitize the electioneering process to ensure credible polls. In Lagos, Adini Itaiwo.
And from Lagos, we go to Port Harcourt for this report by Kingsley Amajiri.
By the provision of Section 91, subsection 4 of the 2022 Electoral Act, no registered political party in Nigeria or its candidates shall be prevented from holding rallies, processions, or meetings at any time for political purpose. Commissioner of Police in each state of the Federation is empowered to resolve the issue of time and venue amongst political parties where they conflict during the campaigns. Section 92, subsection 1 stipulates that political campaigns or slogans shall not be tainted with abusive language likely to injure religious, ethnic, or sectional feelings. This is an indication that the framers of the law expect issue-based campaigns.
So somebody coming up to tell us that this person is from here and that this person is this and it's religious and this and that. It's not necessary for us. It's telling us what we can do when you're elected. That is what is most important for me.
Let them campaign based on their manifesto, telling us what they have to offer to the country.
Past electoral campaigns were more characterized by character maligning rather than on public policy direction.
Want to tell us what they want to do to create industry. Want to tell us what they will do in the educational sector, in every sector that would help in the development of this state. These are the things we want to hear.
Tell us how you intend to give us the desired peace, the desired infrastructure, the desired education, the desired economy, how you can transform this state into the desire of all our thinking.
Welfare of the citizens is a priority in the constitution, regarding what they have to offer. So a situation where citizens continue to suffer over time, it puts a spite on their leadership.
Another key provision in Section 92, subsection 5 forbids political parties and their candidates from using private armed security during the campaigns. Observers describe this as noble, but noted that the Nigerian police must exhibit neutrality and professionalism to give confidence and credibility to the process. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amajiri.
And back in the studio, that's one bit I'd like you to start off from the last part of that report, talking about provision of security for the activities of the politicians. Non-state actors are not to be used. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think we've made the point about first mindset. How do we approach election generally? I think we approach election from the point that crimes committed during election are not crimes. That's for me where we start from. So when people, inflict injury on anybody, you just find out that they say, it's an election thing, and then we move on. And then the way we also provision for election security makes it difficult, because many times people are moved, especially in the off cycles that we saw. Somebody can be moved from Akwa Ibom to Osun, and then immediately after the election, the person goes back. And the IPO thing, the police officer thing, and all of those things. At the end of the day, the person who probably made the arrest has left and may not really come back. So the general attitude, our general attitude to provisioning for elections is challenged. But that also goes to the political parties themselves. It is their conduct that is necessitating all of these things that we talk about. Those of us who have privilege of observing elections elsewhere understand that the level of investment, whether security, resources that we put into elections is not what happens elsewhere. There are places where election officials carry the material to their homes and bring it back on election day, and elections are conducted, people go home. But we generally have this attitude to secure dubious advantage, and because in wanting to secure that dubious advantage, we break the laws and we compromise the process in the situation. And who are those who does all of this? And why I say this is that we must always be mindful of history. We must always be mindful that Nigeria did not just happen today, and that many people today who are speaking about a new order did themselves not just emerge. So if we are going to go into 2023, we need to have a conversation, citizen-led conversation. I am looking for a 2023 that is citizen-led conversation, because all the manifestos of the political parties are printed in gloss. They are all glossy. if you read them, there are you can virtually not separate what one is saying from the other. There is no differentness in terms of what they are saying they will do. So the big challenge and the gap is the citizen oversight. Where is the place of the citizen in this conversation in 2023? If the citizens of Nigeria decide that they want to police their elections, they will police it. In a way, communities have shown that, where people have come to disrupt elections, and the community resisted them and said, you cannot disrupt our election, and even arrested the people and handed over to the police. It has happened. It's a general attitude issue. So if you have security agents who clap when there is a goal, they are like the people, you know, they are provisioning security in a football match, and then when somebody scores, they jump into the field themselves. That is the huge challenge, because internally, even the policeman himself does not understand the place of professionalism, the place of neutrality, the place of impartiality that helps him to be able to secure these elections. But because we operate from tribe, we operate from religion, primordial instincts drive most of our activities. So when you are arrested, the first thing that happens is that his name is Ezenwa, and if it is a Chukudi that is involved, from that point in time, he begins to see how he can, you know, change the rules of the engagement. If it is a Usman that arrested Aliu, he begins to. So we generally are convoluted in the way we approach rule of law issues, and until we deal with those things, most of the issues that we are dealing with will just be. So for me, it's about attitude, it's about professionalism, it's about those who have duty. There are those who have duty to ensure that the goalpost is not shifted, that they themselves are not players. Once that happens, you have a secured election.
You know, sisters, let's hear you.
I'm grateful. I'm enjoying you seriously. You see, like I've read all their manifestos and so on. If you look at them studiously, you hardly see any difference. What they have not told us is this: don't tell me you are going to solve this. Tell me how you are going to solve it. You say you are going to bring light. Tell me how you are going to bring light. That is what none of them has told us yet. No. And if you look at it, you see, I continue to drum it. The issue is, unless there is the rule of law where you don't have a scapegoat, you don't have somebody that you say is above the law, even the 2022 Electoral Act will not work. And that's why I continue to drum. Yes, this criminalizing foul activities are enough there, but then will we punish?
Sometimes it gets very difficult, and I'm looking at issues such as vote buying. Campaign fundings is as secret as they come, and up till now there hasn't been a way for anyone to keep an eye on what goes on and what goes behind the scenes.
Please, can I say something there? The problem we really have is, unless Nigerians, we, not the actors now, if Nigerians say in 2023 we are no longer purchasable merchandise, we can do it. Although most of the politicians, and I say most, will always ensure that these ordinary people are made to be hungry. So that if they give them 1,000, of course, somebody who has not eaten for a whole day, if he's giving 1,000, he'll be forced to do some things that he ought not to do. So even that atmosphere, most of the politicians ensure that atmosphere of giving the voters a free choice is not yet available in this country.
Insatanku, feeding the multitudes, as it's a term we've heard some politicians say, and provide, okay, someone has been under the sun for long, it's good to give them pure water. They've not had breakfast and they've queued up all morning, so a few loaves of bread would do. How would you keep from doing that?
In particular, in what you saw in some of the rallies that took place in the nation just on the 1st of December, 1st of October. Interestingly, people by themselves, in order not to accuse the political party or the campaign organization, people by themselves provided pure water for themselves. They provided bread, puff for themselves. That is how election is being won in different countries. I can tell you, not a single kobo came out from any of our campaign organization to manipulate or enforce or manipulate those particular people you saw. In fact, they went ahead to do it for themselves, and that is the complete change of our electioneering system that we've seen. These are practical things that was seen on the table. It wasn't created by anybody. So that way, the people are taking over the streets by themselves. And I want to also add here, with regard to the issue of enforcement, while I was IPAC chairman, and I believe everybody must have heard me so many times, we have advocated for the support of the Justice Mohammed Uwais report on our electoral process. Unfortunately, how good the Electoral Act is, it didn't take care of those particular suggestions as regard to one, making sure that INEC itself is only entrenched with the issue of conducting elections. And then two, you have a delineation angle where it deals with the issue of delineation, which we suggested that the National Population Commission and other boundary commissions should be involved. And then we also suggested that there must be an enforcement agency to enforce the laws that some of us have for long been talking about. That has not been done. If that was already enshrined in our electoral process, it could have taken care of the enforcement area that a lot of people are talking about. And with all due respect, we in the Labour Party and our presidential candidate, we've also understand very critically well that it's not only about saying that I will do A, B, C, D. We are saying, how do you do it and with timeline? I.e., for example, we are talking about security. In the document that we are already coming out with, it clearly shows that we are going to reform the security apparatus of Nigeria, meaning that we are going to involve technology and we are breaking it from the federal to state, including community policing. These are practical examples. And we also say that at that point in time, there will be training and retraining of our agencies, including recruitment process. These are practical things that we said we are going to do, and it goes with the timeline. We also went ahead to talk about the issue of subsidy. We understand that the issue of subsidy has become a burden to our country. So what do? There are a lot of stealing of crude oil taking place, whether legitimately or illegitimately. The principal said, what is wrong with us breaking down that particular system? If we cannot get that particular refinery running, why don't we have modular refineries across the country? Those who are involved in criminal activities, turn them around so that they can be productive within a modular economy. It creates competition. But apart from creating competition, it brings out the level of inflation rate. We went ahead to talk about the human capital development. What do? How do we do it? We say, taking a look at the number of people and the landmass that we acquire in the northern part of the country. For example, Niger State, we have been able to identify that Niger State has a landmark of 76 square kilometer is even larger than Netherlands. And it can produce food and goods that all of us need. And we have the human resources that can do so in our young men and girls. So for us, practically, not only are we talking about the issues, we are also providing how we intend to deal with those issues. So it is gone beyond the rhetorics.
Let me shift to call up the PDP and say, look, Nigerians have expressed serious concern, going by what happened, the build-up to the primaries, during the primaries, and this hasn't abated really, because we still have reports of all kinds of things going on, huge movement of funds around, and without pointing at any particular party, this is a concern that's run across many of the parties. So, yes, we're going to try to make 2023 free of this kind of money politics, but going by what three of the candidates, can we really put our foot down? I mean, from the perspective of the parties now, to put a stop to all that.
Oga Cyril, I want to start by expressing concern by the comments by SAN, particularly in the area where he said that no candidates, no party has mentioned the House. And it is strange to me because in the political firmament of our nation today, the only candidate out there who started on a platform of providing practical solutions to the problems of our nation is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. And to even demonstrate that further, the Presidential Campaign Council has been inaugurated. The Presidential Campaign Council has met. It's been going around the zones to discuss with Nigerians. But having said that, no matter the dreams, no matter the plans, no matter the promises of a campaign, if our country remains as divided as it is today, nothing, absolutely nothing, will be placed on it. And that is why Atiku Abubakar started by canvassing unity. He proceeded from there by speaking to issues bordering on restructuring, where the devolution of powers to the states and the local government, and proceeded from there because he had experience in the presidential villa as a vice president from 1999 to 2007, during which no fewer than 10,000 policemen were recruited. He has spoken to the issue of ensuring that even pending the creation of state police or municipal police, that it will ensure that the recruitment of policemen. One of the biggest problems of our nation today is the cost of governance, particularly in the area of budgeting and leakages. Atiku Abubakar came out and said, a situation where the current expenditure is higher than capital is unacceptable. And he said it will bring down recurrent to 45% by blocking leakages in government. So Atiku Abubakar has been providing the House to his promises. And another big problem of our nation, which I believe that any government, any administration that sorts that will help the ordinary Nigerians, is the issue of power. And Atiku Abubakar said he will work with the parliament with a view, and I'm happy San is here, of removing the power sector from the exclusive list to the concurrent list, so that states like Akwa Ibom and others who have been able to generate power on their own can also distribute the same without having a recourse to coming to Abuja to come and negotiate with the Ministry of Power. These are issues that bother us. These are issues that are tying us down in the country. And coming to Oga's question, which borders on movement of funds and all that, and without particular reference to any party, I am not aware, and I'm at a level in my party where I should know if funds are moving. I'm at that level, but I'm not aware. But I know it for true that in the last 7 to 8 years, either Ezenwa or the SAN spoke to weaponized hunger in the course of discussing. And that is one of the biggest problems of our country today.
that hunger has been so weaponized that people are just asking for anything. And that politicians must not be allowed to take advantage of our people because the last 7 to 8 years has weaponized hunger. So I agree. But concerning movement of funds or where funds are moving, I know it. And any Nigerian who is not going to deny the fact is also aware that PDP is a household name in Nigeria. And its members, wherever they are found, in over 180,000 polling units of this country, know quite well that they are traditional people and they are committed. They have a commitment to their party. And they believe that the last 8 years has worsened the living condition of every Nigerian, no matter how rich you were before 2015. And as such, Nigerians are there out now trying to rescue their country from this abyss in which we are falling to. And they are not listening to telltales. They are not interested in people who have no experience. They know the man who had been in the villa, who had worked as a vice president, and who has got the experience at the national level to do.
All right, we'll take a short break here. When we return, there'll be more on this conversation. We also have other reports. And we, at that time, will open the phone lines, and that means you can get to join in the discussion in the studio. But stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, this is that part where we open the phone lines and you can call in to be part of the discussion. Well, we say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also like you to go straight to the point. We encourage you not to waste too much time on greetings. Just a mere hello is good enough. And keep it short, straight to the point, so others too can get on the platform and air their views. So, we start off now with another in our reports. This one is from Kaduna.
Kaduna is among political hotbeds in the country as it has always played key role in providing political leaders. Though the Independent National Electoral Commission has lifted embargo for presidential and National Assembly electioneering campaigns, still political parties are yet to roll out campaigns.
Let us listen to people who understand our needs, people who understand our wants, people who are willing and are capable of solving the challenges that we are facing.
I think it's time that we really go to our conscience and forget about any other thing. Forget about that person is Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa or whatever.
Complying with 2022 Electoral Act as amended is what political parties are doing in Kaduna.
It's a welcome development because it has sanitized the electoral process and it has made the political parties to do they're doing the right thing now. Unlike before that, you see the act is saying a different thing, and when they go to the field, you see them doing a different thing.
We really appreciate and we support the issue-based campaigns, and we can keep on enumerating, counting the issues that need to be addressed, the issues that attract the attention of Nigerians.
Electioneering campaigns is expected to be devoid of slander and character assassination.
For now, because the real campaigns have not started. But for now, I think they're going in conformity with the Electoral Act. But we don't know what will happen when the real campaign starts, when they start going to the field and campaigning. So you might not stop them from saying some things, but I think they'll be able to minimize the things they're going to say this time around.
There are some words that are not even allowed to be spoken. Some will come on the air and start casting aspersion against their opponents. All these things are things that are prohibited by the acts.
Voters in Kaduna are set to participate in the process, which will lead to the emergence of credible leaders. Haruna Mohammed.
And next we go over to Enugu, where we have this report coming in.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari in February 2022 signed the much-awaited Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law. Key provisions and innovations in the new electoral law include early release of election funds to INEC, early conduct of party primaries and submission of candidates list, early commencement of campaign, among others. With the kickoff of campaigns for next year elections, political activities, especially campaigns, are expected to be guided by the 2022 Electoral Act.
Political parties can now go on with their campaigns, and it has to be issue-based. If you get to Section 92 of the Electoral Act 2022, it stipulates clearly what politicians can do in the exercise of their campaigns. And I'm sure the politicians and the political parties are quite aware of this.
Some respondents who express hope of peaceful, credible, free and fair elections come 2023 disclose that political activities and campaigns so far carried out are in compliance with the new electoral law, which also harped on the need for issue-based campaign.
We have observed issues, and those issues have been taken care of in this amendment. So there is need that every player, the party, the candidates should comply with the Electoral Act, so that the outcome of the whole exercise will be gladly accepted by everybody and give us what we call free and fair election.
They shouldn't play foul of the Electoral Act. They should campaign with issue-based politics. You tell the people what you will do for them when you are being elected.
It is the belief of some stakeholders that the implementation of the 2022 Electoral Act will go a long way in sanitizing the political atmosphere, reduce election-related litigations, and instill transparency and accountability in the electoral processes, thereby lessening the chances of social unrest during and after the elections.
All right, we're back in the studio now, and hopefully we'll begin to get your views as you call in. But let me come to everyone here and say, we left off just before the break talking about the role money has been playing, and I dare say continue to play in politics. And Nigerians have questioned if indeed those who were thrown up by what we saw during the primaries will suddenly become stainless and go into 2023 without using those huge funds that we had deployed around that we saw.
Well, Augustine, I think the best place for me to start always is the misuse of money and how you can differentiate when a crime has been committed and where a law has been broken. So, if you look at issue about vote buying, for instance, it is a criminal act, punishable by law. Poverty does not excuse it. It's always very important to put, because at a point in time, people commit crime and then find excuses for the crimes that they committed. And say, oh, you know, Nigerians have been, they are so poor. If somebody snatches your phone and runs away and you catch the person and the person says, I've not eaten since morning, that's why I took your food, you clap for the person. Crime is a crime. And because the attitude, we have not ingrained that attitude that when you have obscene use of money in the electoral process, you induce voters that it is a crime. And what has also happened is that there are no vicarious liability on these issues. So you catch the small man who is the person who brought the money, the law is quiet about that person. So the big man sits down, the small man is punished for. Then there are many other parts of it that the law does not engage, which is indeed unethical, if you like, immoral. If you have not been doing roads, for instance, and 2 months to election, 1 month to election, you start, you know, that is some form of inducement. If you start sharing money in the name of empowerment that you didn't do in your 3 years, you start doing, as much as the law does not, you know, capture them, they are immoral and they are unethical. So the big issue for me is that we have a political class that have shredded the social contracts, shredding it by words that have no meaning. Issue-based campaign. What does it mean? What is issue? What are we, when you say issues-based campaign, let it be issues-based campaign. What in reality are you really saying? Let me tell you, since 40 years ago, this country has been ruled on an economic textbook that everybody knows. It's about deregulation, privatization, monetization, commercialization. All of those things are what people are implementing in the last 40 years. If you talk about funding public education from 1999 to 2003, there were 16 government-induced ASUU strike. If you stretch it up till now, there has not been any government that has come that has put premium on funding public education in a way that guarantees that the children of the poor can go to school. So the conversation needs to be deeper. What are we going to do about funding public education as against privatization, as against people who are in government, finishing government and building private universities, and nobody punishes them for ruining public education? We have to get to a point where we are dealing with, do we need, what kind of economy are we going to run? Are we going to run the economy in which government is away from engaging that we are seeing, where you privatize power, for instance, and then you are still funding the people for whom you have given the power to? Okay. So what level of investments are we making in power? Those has to be 1, 2, 3. We have to put it down. And the only way serious to do that is to have citizen conversation. We have had a situation in which the politicians are telling us what they will do. We need to reverse that now and get citizens telling them what we want them to do.
All right. We have our first phone call. Hello? Yes, Junaidu from Abuja. Thanks for staying on the line. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good evening this evening. Yeah, due to the recent ongoing electoral issue and 2023 general election, and with regard to the contestants, the aspirants, especially the presidential campaign and presidential contenders, from my own point of view is Atiku was there 1999-2007. He was there when they did privatization and commercialization of our government institutions like NEPA, NITAL, aviation sector, that Nigerian Airways. So what happened with that privatization? He was there. I think he was the chairman of that committee as then. What happened to that economy? Was it the policy good to the Nigerians? What is he going to tell us now that he wants to come for 2023? That they have sold the government properties that lead to the reduction of small industries because there was no light, no jobs for people. Like on my own state, we have textile, we have like 7 generaries with capacity of over 5,000 workers as then, prior to 99 general election. But comes after 99, all those industries were closed. Those workers gone out, no jobs for them again. And those in the farming sector, they left it, they joined the politics by giving them a machine, one motorcycle, 5,000, 3,000. They abandoned their farming system. Students are not going to school. They join politics, give them 2,000, 3,000. No direction, no good plans for the future generation. It's disturbing. We don't know where we are heading to. Mm-hmm. So we need a strong hand that can lead this country. We need a strong hand. Somebody that is willing to bring this Nigeria to prosperity. Okay. I pray for good of Nigeria. And I wish us a good success of 2023 general election.
Thank you very much, Junaidu. Thank you. Well, sisters, yes, the law and, you heard as they were here, silent in some areas, especially when it comes to the deployment of, when
it comes to deployment of, may I say, resources in an unlawful or immoral way, I think we are lagging behind. And if that continues till 2023, then you and I are in soup. I agree with him. But the main problem we have here, and I always drum it, is that nobody is just willing to tell the truth. The way we are going. Anybody who tells you that there will be no money politics in 2023, and I think did not witness what happened during the primary elections. Let us not deceive ourselves. And secondly, I'm impressed. You talked about the funding of schools. I'm impressed. What you said is true. And I was called during David Mark to address the National Assembly on the way forward. And I delivered the 1-page lecture, yes. And I say all these professions we have called have just come to speak English. There is only one way. And up till now, I'm telling you, if you don't do that, we can never get anywhere. Unless you prohibit our public servants from sending their children to schools abroad and private schools, we can never get anywhere. The question they asked me there was that the condition provided that you can send your own children anywhere. Yes, you can even send them to the moon. But as a public servant, you have limitation on your constitutional rights. For example, if you don't resign, can you contest? As a Nigerian, are you not entitled to vie for the highest office? So don't tell me it's your uncle or your nephew or anybody who is paying for them. It's not true. Please, let's not deceive ourselves. Unless you stop that, we will lie. If they don't have, the public servants don't have stake in the educational system, it will never go anywhere. Oh. And no, I'm sorry. This is important because we are always dodging this issue. Mm-hmm. And when David Mark was to implement it, they threatened to impeach him. That was how it went through second reading, unfortunately for this country. And then if you look at it, fortunately, it is only my own governor who sent some of his children to public school, El-Rufai. Apart from him, no other governor had sent any of his children to any school in Nigeria, not even private schools.
Okay, we have Umar who is on the line from Birnin Kebi. I believe Asim Umar, who calls all the time, regular on this program. Hello.
Yes. Happy Independence in arrears, Zero. My name is Umar, and I'm from Birnin Kebi. You see, I must recommend INEC for the job well done for fine-tuning the Electoral Act and our electoral process for the Act itself and the process itself. Particularly that machine, what do you call it? Is it Givers or something like that? That machine is smarter than the smart card reader. I would like to encourage INEC for doing that. And about the presidential candidate, we don't want many point agenda like 100,000 point agenda or what have you. What we want is the 3-point agenda. It's okay. 3 point in the sense that the issue of insecurity and the issue of corruption, then the issue of fixing the economy. Those point agenda are okay. All other things will follow. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you, Ciro, and happy independence in the race.
Well, thank you very much, Umar from Birnin Kebi. So let's go over to Tanku now, and the question before us is ensuring that the campaigns go on keeping well within the limits of what the law has prescribed, and again carrying Nigerians along. But then some people have said that should ordinarily not be enough. What should be the reward for those who do not keep the faith with the Nigerian people that they're asking to vote for them?
Let me start by some of the issues with regard to rules and regulation. With all due respect and kudos to NTA, look at some of the laws that have happened at a particular time. Here we are, both myself and Kola belong to the opposition political party of the government of the day. But we are here, marshalling out our points, not being guided, not being denied. And that is exactly some of the things that we have to do practically in other parts of this country. I'm just alluding to the fact that even in a campaign, if there are media houses belonging to government, which of course belong to the people, you are being denied the opportunity to speak to the people as regard to areas of discord or what you intend to do for the people, and it's being censored. We are now enjoying a free atmosphere. These are kind of the practical example that we are expecting to see in the system. That apart now, when you look at also the issue of education that was already laid out a while ago, we said that we are going to give 14% of the total budget to the issue of education. And we are making it with practical terms. And also, with regard to power generation, we are very much aware, as of the moment now, the power issue has been removed from the exclusive list now to concurrent list. But we said that, okay, we want to partner critically with the private sector in the area of generation and transmission. These are practical things. And these are things that we intend to do. And with regard to your question, with regard to issues of persons who have worked hard for the campaign organization or the government of the day. Obi had a meeting with the group of Afenifere, and then the question was being asked that what do you do with regard to the issue of restructuring of the country? Now the first thing he answered was simple. We all are involved. You don't elect me and then go back and sit down and expect me only to do what you want me to do, all of us must be involved. That is practical example of governance inclusiveness by the people. And that is exactly what we intend to do. So everybody is expected to be on board. You may not be in the cabinet, but you can make suggestions that will be received and well implemented by the government of the day. And that is why it's very easy for the labor movement and the TUC to be critically involved in what we are doing. So it's not as if that we are going to be the only one saying what we want to do. No, but the people are giving us feedback as regard to what they think we should do. And finally, from Umar, the 3-point agenda we have seen so far has not affected the life of Nigerians positively. And so therefore, it is best for us to expand it to at least a 7-point agenda that we think can work for the Nigerian people. And these are current contemporary issues that affect you and I. And if we do it very well together, Nigerians will be better for it. And that is exactly what our campaign is directed in doing.
Couple of issues that were raised by the two callers we've had so far. Okay, we'll return to the phone lines. Adoke, I believe, from Benway, and when he's made his contribution, we'll go back to caller. Go ahead. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, this advocate calling from Otukpo in Benin State.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, as regards the Electoral Act that has been talked about today, what I see is that, we have several acts in Nigeria. The problem with Nigerians and leaders is not about acts, it's about political will. What we should be concerned and bothered about now is, will the INEC have that political will to implement this act? Will they summon the gods to implement this act? Because this is not the first time that we are having things like this in Nigeria. And if INEC will not summon that gods, I think it will just be an academic affair, a cosmetic act. Why? Because right from the primary elections down to this time, we've seen several violations of this act. There have been several from the spokespersons for all the political parties and the campaign organizations. We've seen some presidential aspirants that have been attacked, especially the presidential aspirants of the Labour Party. On several occasions, this part of the act has been violated and nothing has been done. So as for me, what I would have suggested now is to go beyond this level to advocate and educate the electorate. Most times the problem we have in Nigeria is not bringing out laws, bringing out acts, but how will the people be educated? The people at the grassroots, the youth at the grassroots, are they being educated? Do they have the awareness? And these are the tools that these politicians use. But if they are not given the awareness and they are not educated, how will they know there is something like Electoral Act that I am going to violate and there will be a penalty afterwards? Because like as an Idoma, the Idoma have an adage that Oche, Loka Kefu Po, Efo Bilogen, meaning that if you hear of a war, if you have been informed of a war that is coming ahead, there's no way that the war will consume you, because before the war will come, having heard of it, you will find a way of escape. So these people have not had, they don't have the awareness. The youth are the grassroots. So there should be a channel or a medium by which this thing will be communicated to them. They be educated. And as for vote buying, like my father has said there, I don't think you can keep away vote buying from Nigerian election for now, because, like I said earlier, act and law doesn't work. In short, with the elite. Law does not work with the elite. It's only the poor people that they will apprehend. But the man that brings this money, nobody will know him. Even if they know him, nothing will happen to him. So there is a need for us to tell ourselves the gospel truth. Nigeria is going to hell. And we need to tell ourselves the truth that we are in shambles. Until we begin to rise up to speak the truth and tell ourselves the truth and accept the truth and not by the truth, nothing will change. But we trust God. We trust God that from 2023 election, things will begin to change for the better. So this is what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Adeke from Benue. So let's return now to the former PDP spokesman who's with us tonight. And seems like there are two issues you need to respond to from the earlier calls, and even from the one who just called in now.
I will start with Mr. Ezenwa, who spoke about ownership of promises. That it is not enough for politicians to come around and say, I will do this or I will do that. It is time now to reverse. How do you want to do it? And these are the things that we want you to do. We recall, sir, that Atiku's campaign, essentially when it comes to the economy, is predicated on private-public partnership. And if you recall, even in the 2019 campaign, when he was derided for saying that he will liberalize the NNPC, the current government that defeated him in that election has claimed to have privatized NNPC, even though you and I know what reports that we are reading in the public. But having laid that, I want to make it clear that his economy is predicated on private-public partnership. But having said that, sir, there's also this issue, which I guess you also spoke about, that has to do with the use of money in elections. And I want to bring your attention to the Osun governorship election that we just had in Nigeria. And you will recall how a national leader of a particular party went to tell Osun people at the campaign stand that if you don't vote for our party, we will not get money. But the people voted against their party in spite of the use of money. So for some of us who are in the parties and who are following the electioneering process, we believe that Nigerians are ready to own the process. We know it for sure that for Nigerians, it's not all about money now, because what has befallen our nation in the last 7 to 8 years is a huge lesson for everyone. And there's no need for anybody to come on air here and pretend about it. So I believe that for majority of voters ahead of the 2023 election, they might not be swayed by a fund. If you listen to the streets, you hear from the streets what people are saying. That let them bring their money, they will collect and vote their conscience. So I believe in that. But having said that, sir, I have said it earlier on that for Atiku Abubakar, without unity, whatever the dreams, whatever the promises, whatever you are laying and claiming that you can achieve, it will go to nothing, like lawyers will say, because, or it goes to no issue, like lawyers will say, because the essence of our nationhood has to be defined as a people. And how do we define that? We define it through how united we can bring the country together. And that is one dream that Atiku has consistently espoused in his campaigns.
Another call coming in, this time from Oshogbo. Oluwaseun calling in from Oshogbo. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Go ahead.
This is Oluwaseun calling from Oshogbo. Hello, good morning.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, this is calling from Oshogo.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I want to ask. I want to ask whether is there any law that is being enacted in order to serve as a check and balance for all these politicians, because this present administration they are fond of telling people all what they want to, all promises, but at the end of the day there is nothing among the promises in which they tell the people during electioneering that they proceed. Is there any law that will serve as a check and balance regard that promises?
That's
my question, sir.
Good. That's well, sisters. Is there a law? And then everyone will tell us what the law is, if there is a law, or what the people can't do.
No, there is a law, and that law is in the hands of our legislators. If but by 2023, any of the aspirants who might have won fails to carry out his promises, if you have legislators in place, I think they can easily impeach that person. So far, that is the law yet.
Okay.
It is only by impeachment.
Chapter 2 that has all the beautiful things about health, about education, about the responsibility of the state to the citizens, about how the state should abolish corruption and corrupt practices. Unfortunately, in another part of the constitution, it went again and circumscribed it by saying it is not justiciable. The beginning of the struggle for the citizens in the constitution is to make those things justiciable. If we can make chapter 2 justiciable, the politicians have no business. They will obey the law. If they don't obey the law, you compel them by an act of you can go to court and ask them. But now that constitution is one of the most beautiful piece of legislation that I've read, but it means nothing in reality because it's been abrogated. But having said that, what excites me is that my brother Kola is the media guru. All I just want is for people to do a media content analysis between 2003 at least to today and see whether the discussion has changed. The discussion has been about poverty. The Nigerian people, their problem did not start 8 years ago. The Nigerian people have been confronted by issue of lack of infrastructure, lack of funding of public education, lack of health. It means that the political class need to reinvent itself and have a conversation that broadens and reinvents. Everyone mantranizes governance. 7-point agenda of President Yaradua, what's the other one, and then the anti-corruption program of the. So every government has a mantra. We must shift from this mantra and get to the hard work of building our country. And we don't need all this story about infrastructure. Once they're out of government, they talk about restructuring. When they get into government, they don't restructure. Because that is what our experience have shown. Go and check their man, check everything they've talked about. Everybody who is in government had talked about 30 points. And what 2023 means for the Nigerian people is the change of position to opposition or opposition to position. And once you are benefiting, then the country is good. Once you are not benefiting, the country is bad. We need to come to a point in this conversation for 2023 when we can ask the Nigerian Union of Teachers and say, you are in charge of primary education as a union. Can you tell us the state of public primary schools in the country in a document, and have a town hall meeting where you can invite these presidential candidates and say tick the box, so that at the end of 4 years you can be held accountable. What you are going to see, like I keep saying about issue-based campaign, is that we are going to have
big events where musicians are called, and then what do you call them? Comedians, and then people say you cannot document. And except we document, except we can hold people accountable, every government that has come in Nigeria makes budgets. We realize this morning. The citizens don't hold them accountable, whether those things have been implemented or not implemented. So if you have a citizen-centered conversation in 2023, rather than the politicians continue to set the agenda, you will have flowery language. You will have, they capture your imagination in a way that makes you feel that it's going to be El Dorado. But once that citizen component of it is missing, we are still going to come back in 2027. And so go back and do a media content analysis. In 2003, what was the conversation? What did we do? What was the conversation in 2007? What were we talking about in 2011? Were we not talking about insecurity? In 2003, were people not being killed? Were we not having OPC? Were we not having Bakassi? Were we not having all of those issues? The scale may have increased, but the Nigerian people have been put in a situation in which we need a change in the mindset of the political class. And it has, like I keep saying, it has no tribal marks and no pretensions about it, except we work for it. We come as citizens and hold them by the balls and say, hey, 2023 needs to be different. The only way it's going to be different is that we set the agenda. The Nigerian Medical Association, the Nigerian Association of Registered Doctors tell us about the state of health. You are the one actively engaged in that. No story. What is the state of health? Put it in a document. Let NAD and dental, all of them come together, have a town hall meeting, bring the candidates, and then let them tick the box. I'm just giving examples of how citizens can drive this engagement, because if we allow this, it's not going to be any different. Why do you appoint a spokesman? You appoint a spokesman, get very experienced people, get people who can talk very well, so that they can, they can keep reeling out statistics and talking about how. But go back and do your own work and see whether in which way material particular of our life improved since this democracy came. The democracy has been challenged because it is not fulfilling the aspirations that Nigerians who struggled for this democracy. Incidentally, Tanko invested a lot of time in all of that. This democracy is not paying the dividend for which all of us invested our time and youth. So the way to go about it is not to have all these platitudes that we are putting on the table. We are suffering. All the industries, textile industries collapsed. They didn't collapse today. Sharada, all of them, Kaduna textiles, they did not collapse today. We cannot revitalize in the last 20 years just simply Ajokuta rolling mill, Ajokuta steel plant. That Ajokuta has capacity to produce 17,000 jobs and ancillary jobs, feed just rolling steel, Asaba, Katsina, Osogbo. That Ajokuta has been moribund for nearly 20 years, and nobody is talking about that. We are creating recharge card jobs all over the country. We are putting billboards that we brought Mr. Biggs, we brought this and that into. It's a shame for the political class of Nigeria. Right. And 2023 need to be redesigned in a way that we as citizens confront them with the issues and not them telling us what to do.
As we begin to wind down, there are two issues I need to raise with the actors in the upcoming elections, and that has to do with the state. Again, we return to the state of preparedness of these parties for the task ahead, and again about the worries, the concerns being raised about how these parties are conducting their affairs with so many internal wranglings and what has been described as lack of internal democracy, which is still plaguing the parties across board, where Nigerians are asking for these organizations that cannot keep their houses in order. How do we expect that they can lead the nation to what's been called the promised land? Let's start with you, Kola.
conflict and resolution of conflicts are part of politics. And that even in the micro family of a father, mother, and children, you have conflicts. It's about resolution. As far as the People's Democratic Party is concerned, we are managing our disagreements, and we will continue to manage those disagreements. What you see from the outside is different from what is operating in the inside. And I can assure you, we are 4 months ahead.
You. It's from the outside that we can use to judge you.
Uncle Siri, whatever you are seeing from the outside could be different from what is happening in the inside. And like I said earlier on, we'll manage our disagreements ahead of the election. But having said that, talking about the stage of preparedness, in the political firmament of our nation today, it's only the People's Democratic Party and Atiku Abubakar as candidate that has constituted its presidential campaign council. It remains the only party that has inaugurated its campaign council. It remains the only party that has held meetings within its campaign council. It also remains, and the candidate also remains, the only candidate, as we speak, that is moving zone by zone and discussing with Nigerians. As I speak tomorrow or today, we will be, it's past already, today we'll be in Bauchi. We are formally kickstarting our campaign on the 10th of this month, presumably Monday, in Uyo, in Akwa Ibom State. So for us, with experience of over 20 years, since 1990 till date, and refusing to mutate in any form as a political party, experience counts for the People's Democratic Party. And as such, we are assuring Nigerians that though Mr. Ezenwa is now opposed to the issue of issue-based campaign, but we don't have anything that will offer outside raising the issues, and like our presidential candidate has consistently done, providing the real solutions to the challenges that is contending with our contemporary nation as we speak today. And that is what the PDP will do in every state that we will go to. I must also bring to your attention that we have candidates in every ward, in every local government, in every state, at every federal constituency, at every senatorial constituency, for all governorship and for presidency, across the nation, in any state of the federation. We have candidates that will mobilize votes for us. We have candidates that will mobilize support for the party. So I assure you, like I said in the beginning, we will remain by functioning within the arena of decency, both in our campaign. We are not going to harass Nigerians. We are only going to lay down the issues and appeal to Nigerians to own the process, because Atiku is the solution. Thank you very much, sir.
Tanku, I'd hear you out. Same question. The state of preparedness, with all the internal wranglings going around.
All of minimal internal issues. Of course, when it comes to contests, normally there will be flexings of muscles and interest being generated. But I think among all the political parties, we have very minimal challenges within ourselves, and it's surmountable. So you cannot run away from the fact that internally you will have it. But we've been open and giving opportunity to everybody who wants to run for election under the leadership of Barrister Abure and Ibrahim Umar and the National Working Committee of the Labour Party. It is interesting to note also that the Labour Party went ahead to do something that is very unique. There was a sensitization that was carried out nationwide. I doubt if any political party had done that. In all the zones, the Labour Party makes sure that the National Working Committee go round to sensitize the people of the need of issue-based politics and mobilization for a new Nigeria that we're trying to transform into. And we went ahead And Seneca was one of this particular program, the retreat we held in Abuja, and there was also an invitation that was extended to all of our people to be at a program at Barcelona Hotel in order to sensitize them. And then these are ways in which we connect with the people. We didn't stay back as regard to, thinking that probably is Abuja. We are cascading this particular sensitization down to the grassroots to make sure that everybody can connect with us. With the present day of digital age, we have various platforms that every information can be disseminated to the members of the party within one sweep. And that is the way to communicate and ensure that everybody is well informed about the modus operandi of the party. I want to make reference to Olusegun's issue when he raised the issue of punishable offenses for failed promises. Well, yes, as was already identified, we have been canvassing for Chapter 2 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Constitution to be justiciable. But where that is not possible, that is why you have your voter's card with you. The voter's card is your weapon in which to deal with those who have promised you and failed you, which you have seen in all of the particular leadership that have been provided, the past and the present. So once you can use your voter's card, you can mobilize along your polling unit to get those people who have promised you, get them out and vote for the right people. And I want to believe that the Labour Party, led by Comrade Peter Gregory Obi, is the best option that you have, because that is where you give an opportunity for you to be able to transform your dreams into reality. Because with practical example, when you come to the issue of campaign, we are not only extrapolating issues that we want to do, we are taking information from the people. And that is why the Labour Congress and the TUC is strictly involved in terms of ideology, in terms of doing practical things. For example, when we talk about ASU, for example, they are members of the Labour Congress. If we are empowered by the grace of God, which we will be, the issue of ASU will be of us, because the workers will be part of the government. They will be deciding exactly how power can be generated, how we can take care of the issue of subsidy.
Let me quickly move on here because we're running out of time, and this is what I want to raise with the senior advocate who is here with us today, and it's what's happening with the parties and the courts. Disqualifications, some very prominent names been disqualified, and as we identified at the start of this program, there's still so many cases in court. People ask, what happens if very many of these people who have thrown their heart into the ring, what happens if they're all disqualified within this period?
You see, the Electoral Act has provisions for all those. And it shows one thing, that the courts are really working. Because if you see some of those who are disqualified, mainly for want of proper party primaries and so on, you praise the courts. Even if you are not sincere, you praise the courts for what they are doing, and it is a good thing. My prayer is that the courts will continue that in 2023. I think it is the only way we can make the polity to be stable. And then with the conclusion, I said from the beginning, there is always the time limit now. It is not business as usual before. 180 days, that's 6 months for the trial, 60 days, 2 months for the Court of Appeal, 2 months for the Supreme Court. So it will not linger on like before, definitely. And the courts constitute the third arm of the government that is always keeping to its own mandate.
Okay. Well, finally, from your angle, what would be your thoughts on what has been described as the struggle for the soul of some of the parties going on now, and how that would impact the coming elections?
Well, like we know, there are people who are in a party and they are struggling for position in another party, unfortunately for us. And the dominant political parties
have come with so much arrogance, if you permit the use of that word, in the sense that they are not even available for engagement in a way that can help them mirror some of these conversations that we keep talking about. But I hope and I know that many of the very serious-minded people who are in those political parties are also as worried, and they are thinking along the line of what can be done. Because when you engage them, some of them honest enough to tell you that, look, we need assistance, we need support, we need a situation in which we can break. I want to see a situation in which this movement thing can be stopped. You can't continue to just move. You know, in the morning you are here, in the evening because we can't even pin you down to anything at the end of the day. But hopefully, these engagements is one that is welcome. More of it will come in the course of the 2022 election, and kudos to NTA for putting this level playing ground, if you like.
All right, thank you so very much. And it is on that note we'll have to leave this conversation. As I always say, no one program can take care of all the issues. We'd like to thank our guests so very much for being on tonight's program. Ezenwa, Chairman Partners for Electoral. It's always a delight to have you on these discussions. Thank you,
Augustine.
Thank you so much. Yunus Ustaz Usman, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, we thank you for always responding to our invitations.
Thank you very much.
Give us the legal angle of all this.
Thank you very much.
Let me say thank you to Dr. Tanko Yunus, the Chief Spokesman, the Coalition for the Labour Party. Thanks, and it's good to have you join us, and thank you. And big thank you to Kola Ologboniro, immediate past Publicity Secretary of the PDP. Thank you for availing us of your thoughts on these issues. We appreciate you. And thank you too for being part of this program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.